Good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending this session of the Technology Transition Program on Maynooth Online. So just a bit of setup here. So my name is Brendan McGuigan. I'm the Assistive Technology Tutor based in the Access Office in Maynooth. You might notice if you're accessing this through a web browser, most possibly Chrome, there's a option on the right there to actually ask any questions, chat. Please feel free to chat during the session. We have 3 map ambassadors joining me today, so if you want to introduce yourselves, starting with I'll start with Myrn actually.
Hi, I'm Myrn and I'm a computer science student in 3rd year.
Thanks, Myrn. And we have Richard.
Hi, I'm Richard. I'm a computational thinking student.
Thanks, Richard. And we also have Ryan.
How is? My name is Ryan. I'm going into 3rd year computer science and I'm one of the head ambassadors for this year's Launchpad.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. So they'll be answering the Q&A chat, and they also have the power to interrupt me during the this session. So if any questions are really important, if they can't answer, or if they're stuck, they can just say, we have a question here, and I'll be asking them throughout. So if you want to test it out now, you can actually type in your county there if you wanted to check it, and the ambassadors will respond in kind. So this setup is going over your Maynooth University email account, how to store documents online using Microsoft OneDrive, an introduction to Microsoft Teams, and also the virtual learning environment, which is Moodle. So you'll probably get sick of hearing all these throughout the year, but it's good. This is a good introductory session on how to set all these up as you mean to go on, and just a great few organizational tips as well. So onto your Office or your Maynooth Online. So the Maynooth University actually uses the Microsoft Office platform. So you might hear Microsoft 365 or Office 365. So all these names are interchangeable. So once you have your login credentials, if you haven't got them already, go to www.office.com, sign in using your firstname.surname.year@mumail.ie, and then use your password. So you can actually install Office for free on up to 5 devices. So signing into a mobile device, for example, with your username and password, or even I'll get to it at the end of this, or in another session, there's actually an Outlook, or sorry, an Office app where it combines the likes of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. So this is what they've literally changed. I was actually logged in last Friday, and they've changed the layout again just to confuse things. So this is what you'll see when you log in now, and I've obviously blurred a few personal documents there. So on the left hand side are your shortcuts to all your applications. So if you recognize those icons, there's below the home button there's a plus where you can sort of add shortcut apps there. So there's the blue Word icon, Excel, which is green, PowerPoint, which is the orange there. Underneath that, I recognize that as the Outlook. Below that is OneDrive, etc. So there's where you would install Office on your system. So you click on that, click on Install Office 365 Apps. And within, it took me about an hour, and it took 3 gigs of hard drive space on Windows 10, using decent speed broadband as well when it worked. So that's how long it took and how the size of the full program to install. So you're going to hear a couple of things like between apps and applications. So for me, the apps would be installed on a mobile device or accessed through a web browser. So that's it. Just if I go to office.com and click on the likes of Outlook, I'm accessing the Outlook app through the browser. Or if I access the app on my phone, that's the Outlook app. The application is the one you have installed locally on your machine. So it's sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, which you prefer to use. I actually prefer to use, the likes of Outlook through the web browser, and I prefer to use Teams. That's the installed app. But don't worry, this will make sense by the end of this session too. So I'll just move on to your Outlook and mumail.ie. So that's what I've heard it referred as, mumail. So in office.com, you just click on the Outlook shortcut. So your email address, as mentioned, it will be firstname.surname.year@mumail or mumail.ie. The staff, so that's every student's email address. Staff are @mu.ie, just to differentiate between the both. So I'd highly recommend setting up and installing the Outlook app on your phone if you haven't already. And then at the end of this, by the way, there is a final slide where I'll say thanks and give a few links, but I'll also share my own settings or my own desktop. So stick around to the end. It's not over until I say goodbye, sort of thing. So with your emails too, you can actually create email rules to filter out messages. So for example, these Moodle digests you'll be getting shortly, and again, this will make sense as you're using your emails and you're using Moodle, which I'll go through in a second as well. So with the rules to filter messages, so these would be the likes of, I have a filter in my own emails to say any student emails coming in. What it does is it bypasses the inbox and it goes directly into a student folder where I can see that. It makes a bit more sense to me to say, well, there's one folder I'm dealing with instead of having to sift or filter through about 200 emails, which I did, and I think there's only about 5 or 6 emails in my inbox now. Everything else is filtered. And what I meant earlier, where you're setting all these rules up at the start. So you just set them up at the start, and they will work throughout the year. So, for example, if you set up one for your department, say, so you would set up filters for each of your lectures that would go into its separate folder. And it's a really good way of splitting out and sort of knowing yourself who you're replying to. So that with Outlook, and it's caught me a few times with the autofill on the address, where I kind of before I send something, I'm almost like backspacing the address and making sure that it's going to the right lecture. So I might ask Ryan. I probably know, or from what I remember, he has a few rules set up as well, so he can probably back me up here. So Ryan, do you have any rules set up?
Yeah, the one that I normally bring up this is I have a rule set up, so any emails coming from an @mu.ie email address is guaranteed to be coming from staff of the university. So I have them set to go into their own folder, so I always know if a lecturer or someone else is emailing me, I can check that spot before everything else.
Brilliant. Yeah, so it's that level of filtering. So it's automatic filtering that you can just check and sort of set it up, that you don't need to be worried about scrolling through hundreds of emails like what I used to have to do. So here, OneDrive. I've just updated this screenshot as well, just to make it a bit clearer. Not really, because I've blurred out my personal information. But OneDrive is accessed through, if I go back up here to this slide. So if you look in the screenshot, there is sort of that blue cloud icon, which is the second from the bottom on the left-hand side on the toolbar. So that's where you'd access your online storage. So office.com, click on the OneDrive icon. So here it's saying that you never lose a file. You can actually drag and drop files into it or upload files. So there's a couple of buttons there to say, when you click on the drop down there for new, for example, it'll let you create new folders or files. So the hint here is that, again, I'm going to repeat myself, start as you mean to go on. So set up all these folders of your course codes or module numbers in there. So that just means anything that you will download from Moodle, the likes of readings or presentations, upload them into your OneDrive, so you'll never lose them, because you'll see a lovely big search bar up at the top there, which is very, very handy to search through your files and folders there to get something back very quickly. And I'll go through Moodle now in a minute. It's coming up, so you'll know what I mean when I say download everything from Moodle. So you actually have 1 terabyte of storage space. To get quite technical, that's about 1024 gigabytes. So that's a lot. You can access it from anywhere. So if you were so inclined, you can access it from your phone. But if you had the Office 365 apps installed, with you signing in, that would give you the link to OneDrive. So you can actually automatically save a Word file you're currently writing on to your OneDrive directly from your desktop or laptop. So what that means is that an autosave toggle will be clicked on at the top left of your document, and you can just type away and know that every few seconds or any change in the document, you'll see saved. So it'll say auto-saving, and then it'll say saved. So this just means that you'll never lose anything. And just in case, there's a power cut or, a memory key becomes corrupt, these issues you won't have to worry about. So it actually has happened to me where I had a memory key, an 8 gig memory key, just full of personal documents. I completely, or it lapsed, where I just forgot to upload the whole thing as a backup into my OneDrive, and I just lost so much work doing that. So any readings I hadn't stored on that. So again, it's just a sort of word of warning just to use it. maybe daily with your readings, or even if you're uploading documents, just know that you can upload documents to this and they'll be retrievable from pretty much anywhere in the world where you have access to the internet. You can log into OneDrive or Office.com, click on OneDrive, and then retrieve your files. Download them as a Word document or a PDF or a PowerPoint, and then submit them through Moodle that way. So I might see if Richard has any more, or if he's used. If not, don't worry. If you've used OneDrive, or if you're going to use OneDrive, any tips will be handy.
Yeah, OneDrive is very useful, storing your files online, so that because if you're using computers that are on campus, rather than like carrying on a USB drive with you, you can just log into your OneDrive and access all your files on those computers.
Thanks for that, Richard. Okay, so that's both your Outlook and your OneDrive set up, ready to go from day one. So here, accessing your course content will be through your lectures rather, through Microsoft Teams. So this is sort of a fourth wall breaking slide, because you're already in Microsoft Teams or clicked on that Microsoft Teams link. So your browser is probably directed to Microsoft Teams. So lectures will be delivered on this. Probably a bit different from the way this is delivered. So this is a live event. So that just means that the attendees can't see or that actually engage or chat, which is unfortunate. When you log into Microsoft Teams, you'll then be able to sort of see all the other students or attendees' email addresses, and everyone can sort of chat away. Well, that will make more sense as your lectures are being delivered. So Teams works, I like this term, cross-platform, and that's just a techie way of saying that it works on a browser, on your desktop, and through a mobile app. So if you went to teams.microsoft.com, signed in, you could actually access your course content through, I recommend Google Chrome. Doesn't really work on Firefox for me. Desktop is, if you installed, as I said earlier, if you installed the desktop application, it actually has a bit more uses and features than the web version. So for example, this desktop version, I could share my screen and share these slides with you. And then you have the mobile app. So I actually, trying to multitask, I've actually attended meetings on my phone while I was typing away on my laptop. So through the Teams app. The only downside with that is if slides are being shared, I know it's quite hard to be staring at a sort of a mobile screen to make out any detail in the in those slides if it's on such a small screen. That's the thing. So with Teams, you have access to instant messaging, which also enables voice and video calling, and also screen sharing. So screen sharing, as I said, only available in the desktop version. So if you were to access office.com, sign in, download, teams.microsoft.com, there is an option there to say download desktop application. So you click on that, and then you'll wait and install, and it should auto start for you. Then each time you start up with your machine, you can turn that off if you wanted to. So it's useful for calling and working together on files. So with that autofill thing, as I mentioned, if you're typing out someone's name, just be careful of who you're typing or the autofill. So there's been a couple of messages that were meant for colleagues that were nearly sent to students. That was a close call. So again, you can instant message, and then if they were available, you can just start a video or voice call with them as well. So as touched on there, it has a search feature for people and files. So the search feature is really good for picking up past chats and also any files that you've been working on. So say, for example, I knew I was in a conversation with a colleague, and we were working on this particular file, and I knew that maybe a word out of the content or the actual word through the file, but I couldn't find it on my system. I would enter in that term into the search bar at the top, and there's 3 tabs that will appear. So a people finder, chats finder, and then a file finder. So it'll actually let you search within those 3 areas: people, files, and chats. And it's really handy for retrieving that information. So pretty much you'll never lose anything, touch wood. So really useful too is that there's a few keyboard shortcuts, and these again have saved me just so sometimes they can hear me clicking away with my mouse in a team, and if I just hit type control and full stop, that'll show all these keyboard shortcuts. So what I mean by that is they can hear me clicking around and I'm trying to multitask while in a team meeting. I'll just press Control Shift and the letter M, and that will actually mute my microphone. Holding down Control, holding down Shift, and pressing M again will unmute myself. The same combination is Control Shift and O for video, or Control Shift and O again to switch video on or off. So yeah, that's been Microsoft, or a quick introduction to Microsoft Teams. It's quite reminds me of sort of a social media layout or social media format where content is posted and people will interact with that content. So give it a like, give it an emoji, whatever, or even respond. And you can tag in, you can @ other people as well. So if you type the @ symbol and start typing a name, you can tag other people into content as well. So it's quite useful for that group engagement and group work too. I might call on Myrn to see if she has any or more tips regarding Teams, if she's used Teams at all in sort of a lecture content. If not, don't worry. I can.
Yeah, no, I use Teams the whole time since like lockdown and everything. And yeah, it's really handy because it's like an easy layout and everything, and you have like all your like modules grouped together in like the Teams area and stuff. So yeah, and like it's really handy to message like lectures and everything because you can see if they're online and stuff. So yeah, it's really handy.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Mary. Okay, so that was going through Outlook, OneDrive, Outlook for your emails, obviously, and Calendar. OneDrive for your storing your documents. Microsoft Teams for accessing your lectures, and the next is the virtual learning environment, which is Moodle. So virtual learning environment, or VLE, you'll just hear Moodle all the time. So each module on your course has its own Moodle space. And as mentioned earlier on in these slides, I'll log into my own version of Moodle, which might look different from yours, but it'll have a similar layout. But it just, some of the course or module codes might confuse you at the start, but I'll show you how to get around that. So Moodle will contain slides, readings, guides, videos, etc. So everything from your modules will be up on this, so all the content. So I did mention earlier that it's a really good habit to get into anything that was posted on your Moodle, download it from Moodle, so any PowerPoints, any PDFs, anything that's on there, and then upload it into the relevant folder that you've created in OneDrive. For example, MH101, for example, that course code in here, create the same folder in your OneDrive, download everything, upload everything into there. That's a just in case, again, because I've seen where some lecturers will to sort of tidy up their Moodle space or area just so it doesn't look cluttered and you're not confusing students going through past readings. They will turn off previous week's content. That just means they will hide it from, the content will still be there, but it'll be hidden for students. Again, that's just to tidy up the actual Moodle space, but in doing so, it'll actually cut off access to that previous week's content. So just in case, everything that goes live on Moodle, download it and upload it into OneDrive, so everything's there in your OneDrive, and you have more than enough storage space in OneDrive to deal with that. So with Moodle, you can sign into your Office 365 account, and My Courses will link the courses will list the courses you're automatically enrolled in. So if you have a look at that screenshot there, so there's a My Courses block. So Moodle is laid out into these things called blocks. You'll see over on the right hand side, My Assignments and Quizzes block. But again, I will sign into or share my own screen and show that in a moment. If anyone's accessing this on a Mac, Moodle just informed me this morning, or Moodle support rather, just to tell me that there is a known issue with Safari. So Safari is the built-in browser on Mac devices. So they really recommend using Google Chrome or a Chrome derivative. So the issue that's happening there is just there's no scroll bar appearing. They don't know why, but they're working to fix that at the moment. And I'll actually show you that going into, there's a few new videos posted in the Moodle Help for Students course there on Moodle too when I share this. So I think that's the last slide. So these links will be posted in the chat there, hopefully by our handy map ambassadors. So we'd really appreciate your feedback. So as I said, this is not the last slide. I'll be sharing my screen in a moment, just showing you a few of these tips I went over today in this class. So the survey is tinyurl.com/TTP 2020 feedback. This slideshow is available at tinyurl.com/MU online TTP 2020. Video will be up on the website soon, hopefully. And then any questions, please click on the Ask button on the Maynooth University site. So if you're on the access page, for example, you'll see down the bottom right is that Ask button, and it should, after a few seconds of scrolling or being on the site, pop up asking you if there's any questions you have. So feel free to pop in any questions there as well if you have any further details about your course. This is more about technology. So if you have any further questions, our admin team can get back to you regarding any of those. Please feel free to email myself, brendan.mcguigan@mu.ie, or even tweet at @mu_map. I do believe there's an Instagram and a TikTok accounts available, but I'm too old for those, so I'm still on Twitter. So please tweet or email. So as I mentioned, I'm just going to exit out of this and share my screen. So if you can still see that. So here are my emails. As I said, 5 emails in my inbox. So I'm just going to click on settings here. Go into rules. Click on inbox rules. So here is where these are all rules I've already set up, but you click on add a new rule. So much in the way, I think it was Ryan who said that he has rules set up for staff. I have the opposite. I have rules set up for students who email me, for example. So you'll see here student emails. So I'm not going to create a new rule or add a new rule. I'll just click on the pencil here to show you what a new rule is or how a new rule is set up. So we click on edit rule here, for example. So it needs a few things. So student, a name. So I have mine called student emails. So 2 things need to happen. 3 if you're drilling right down. So a condition, an action, and you can actually add an exception if you want, but you don't need to. So a condition is what the Outlook will see or what to act on. So for this very, very simple example here is I have this drop down to say sender's address includes, so you can see the amount of things I could drill this down to, but the sender's address includes mumail or at mumail.ie. So this just means I've moved on to action here. So I've requested that Outlook will move this to student emails and bookings folder. So you'll see here, I can add it to any of these other folders, or I can actually create a new folder directly in this rule. So you don't need to create a new folder outside of this rule and then go in and create the rule. You can actually create the folder during this. So a really, really good rule to set up at the start would be one from Moodle or Moodle Digest. So Moodle, which I'm going to log into in a second, will actually send these updates to your Maynooth email address. Now, some of these are, I'll say that some of them are important. So all they are is forum updates, like if anyone posted in a forum. So the layout is quite confusing in the Moodle Digest, but sometimes you will find that sort of needle in a haystack email where you're thinking this is really good information, I better keep it, instead of automatically deleting it. Completely up to yourself. Like you can set a rule to say anything that comes in from Moodle, delete it. I wouldn't recommend that, but I just set up something similar to this. So it's called Moodle. If the sender's address includes Moodle, move it to Moodle. So you probably get sick of the word Moodle, if not by the end of this, but definitely by the end of the semester. So I just click on save. So any of these rules that are set up from the time they're set up will only work from that time. So this won't work for any emails you've already received. So just to note that this is why this is sort of hinted at to set them up now, because as soon as you set them up, they'll work then in the background and you don't need to go in and adjust them in any way. So I'm just going to close out of that or go into my Moodle here. So this is if I type moodle.num.ie, there it is, Moodle, my session is timed out. So I'll sign back in. So you'll see here the new link is available here. So 2021.moodle.maynoothuniversity.ie. So you can probably see why I type moodle.neym.ie, because it forwards and it's less characters to type. I am quite lazy. So if I click on this link, so if you're wondering what browser I'm using Microsoft Edge, which is basically built on Google Chrome. But here you might notice the little star here. I highly recommend to bookmark any of these pages or add them to your favorites, just so you'll be signing in and out of these and creating shortcuts to these anyway. So just bookmark any page that you'll find useful, just if you're going to revisit these over and over and over again. So I'm just going to log in here. MU staff and students should automatically sign me in. It does. Oh, so here's a good update that they're experiencing issues with response times. So here's hoping I have no issues here. So underneath here is my courses, past, current, future courses. So all your module codes will be listed here. So if I scroll down a wee bit, there's one here. Sometimes they'll be in just the module codes and they won't really make much sense to me even. So if a good trick is if you hover over your mouse over a course, it'll actually give the full text of that course. For example, it says here, this is MC SET staff. It's a Turnitin self-check for staff. So it's year long. So some courses will only be a semester long as well here. So this is why it's really important to download everything that you can from Moodle, because the previous semesters might be completely gone from Moodle, just so you know. So here I said I was going to go into Moodle Help for Students just to show you the layout here. So click on that. And this is the introduction to Moodle. So here, because I know the icons already, this is the forum announcement. So Moodle support announcements for students. That's probably what you'll be receiving the automatic email from. So any posts that are in these, that's what the contents of the emails are. This, you probably know this icon already. That's a PDF that you can click on to open this introduction to Moodle. It's a guide for students. Another separate page for frequently asked questions. And then these are click and expandable links. So anywhere you see this sort of arrow here, you can actually expand these links. So sometimes content is hidden underneath. And you can see here are the new videos that have gone up. So an introduction to Moodle, logging in and navigating the dashboard, changing your password, customizing, etc. So you can go through these. I highly recommend going through all these just to get yourself familiar with Moodle. So I can actually collapse instead of expanding, just click on collapse that. So supporting the change of mind process. So that's where you click on this PDF document, your dashboard page, etc. So orientation video guides, that'd be a really useful one to click into at the moment. So that's pretty much the MU Online. So that was, again, setting up Outlook, setting up rules in Outlook, accessing Outlook, downloading the app for Outlook, knowing that you can now install Office across multiple devices by signing into your account. OneDrive, which will enable online storage, so that cloud storage, so never lose a file or any document that you upload and create in there. And Moodle, which is a quick run through of Moodle, and Microsoft Teams as well. So as I said, I highly recommend using the desktop version of Teams if you can. So if there are no questions, I'm just going to check the ambassadors if there are any questions that came in.
Yeah, Brendan, there were a couple of people asking about laptops, asking if they need one or what kind of laptop they might need. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, if you're looking up the minimum specifications of Microsoft Teams, it's not that resource heavy, the desktop version. But just if you're using it for, light browsing, web browsing, Netflix, that sort of thing. I know there's a running joke or a few memes about Google Chrome basically eating up RAM. So the minimum RAM or the memory of the machine back in my day, it used to be 4 gigs. So that was like pretty much fast. But nowadays laptops, the minimum is 8 gigs. That can save, you can multitask using that. So a couple of things to think about is hard drive. personally, I'd go, even though there's less storage and it may cost a bit more, is an SSD. So that just stands for solid state drive, and it just means the machine is booting off basically what a flash drive or a USB key almost. So I'm sorry if this is technical, but the old version of a hard drive used to be literally a platter of discs, like a smaller version of a few records stacked on top of each other. I am showing my age here. So like, if you can think that it was all mechanical, and the read write speed of that was quite slow. So for example, in this laptop here that I'm using, it has an SSD and it boots within seconds instead of booting within minutes, and be going off making at least 2 cups of tea and highly caffeinated by the time it gets up to the Windows boot screen. So that's the hard drive. The processor, or sort of the brain of the machine, just make sure you're getting something that's at least, I suppose we're into the 10th generation of Intel. Maybe you're either dealing with an Intel chip or an AMD chip. God, I can't remember the naming technology. I know we're into the 10th generation of Intel. 9th generation would be fine, something like an i5, i7 at a push if you want to really sort of speed it up, or if you're using it for, you don't really need it to I think i7s for me might be overkill. So as I mentioned, all I use this is to check my Twitter, check my emails, work on a couple of Word documents, and so on. Processor speed of maybe a little over 2.5, 2.6 gigahertz G, capital G, capital H, small z. And then, as I said, with RAM, something that will have 8 gigabytes. So anything you can see around those specifications, just be wary of the likes of Chromebooks only work with the Chrome operating system or Chrome infrastructure. So you're locked into Google and using sort of web apps with that. Some people, or even myself, I didn't realize that you can't actually install separate apps or applications on a Chromebook. Not the way you can do with the likes of Windows, where you can install, for example, the full Office suite of applications. So that's been 5 minutes of me rambling on about technology specs. Hopefully that answered that query. There's other sites like I believe it's complet.ie, komplet.ie, elara.ie. I'm not on the payroll for any of these other sites, by the way. I'm just mentioned there are other sites than Currys or DID, just to comparatively shop online. So so that's a few good question, by the way. And I hope I sort of dealt with it in my rambling, caffeine fueled way. Any other questions that came in? If not, then this will be a really good place to end the session. So I want to thank all the ambassadors for helping with the chat and giving their input with a few of these technologies, and just basically playing good cop to my bad cop. The next session is at 12 p.m. and that's on learning to learn, or learn to learn, L2L. So that's just basically on note-taking technologies, reading, helping with your readings, and researching. So believe it or not, all these tips that are given across TTP are actually meant to both save you time and save you stress. Okay, and if that's everything, I'll wrap it up there. So thank you to all attendees, thank you to all ambassadors, and take care and stay safe. Bye now.